Thank you very much, and as I am in the chair, I will yield myself whatever time is necessary. First and foremost, let me just note that I have had a long relationship with Pakistan and with that part of the world. I was probably elected as Pakistan's best friend in Congress, and I will have to say that during the 1980s, I was involved with Pakistan at the highest level in terms of supporting the Mujahideen fight against the Soviet Union in Afghanistan. Even then, there was reasons for concern. The lion's share of the supplies that we provided for the Mujahideen went to Hekmatyar Gulbuddin. And the ISI, which is the intelligence unit in their military intelligence in Pakistan, intentionally gave those the most radical of the elements the most of the weapons and supplies that we were providing. I found that even then to be upsetting and not thinking in terms of the long run, except I had assumed that because the ISI military people I was working with were all clean-shaven and looked like British officers, that they were not radicals. I think I made a mistake. And after the Soviet Union was eliminated from Afghanistan, which I'm proud to have played a part in that effort, the Taliban, there was a period of chaos, and the Taliban emerged. Why did the Taliban take power? Taliban took power because the people in Pakistan set it up and organized and supported and supplied the Taliban so that they would, and then cut a deal with the Saudis to finance the Taliban, and thus the people of Afghanistan had radicalism, Taliban version shoved down their throats, and started this whole cycle that has been so damaging. Let me note after that, after 9/11 and all the way up until 9/11, the Pakistani ISI was deeply involved in supporting the Taliban and thus terrorism throughout the region and throughout the world. And after 9/11, yes, I'm told that the Pakistanis became very cooperative. I don't know the details about that. I would assume they were cooperative at some point because we were at that point willing to really do some damage to people who were getting in our way of seeking revenge for the slaughter of 3,000 Americans on 9/11. However, during that same period of the greatest height in our concern, the Pakistani government saw fit to give safe haven to Osama bin Laden. First of all, is there anyone on the panel who believes that the high-level Pakistani authorities did not know that Osama bin Laden was in their country? Is there anyone there who could say, no, they didn't know, we got to give them the benefit of the doubt? No, I've never met anybody willing to say that. And then, of course, since Osama bin Laden was brought to justice, we have Dr. Afridi, the man who helped us bring him to, he has been arrested by the Pakistani government and thrown into a dungeon. And to me, that is an insult, an intentional insult to the American people who have just seen our people slaughtered, but they're not going to, they're going to do harm to the person who helped us bring to justice the murderer of our people. So all of those things lead me kind of to think that maybe the Pakistan that I was supporting during the Cold War, because they were supporting the United States, that was either a really bad decision on my part back then, or we have evolved into a situation where Pakistan was once a friend and is now an enemy. And I will let you guys comment on that, but let me note, one of our greatest adversaries now in the world, not an enemy of ours, but an adversary, is China. And it's not Russia anymore. I mean, Russia, a lot of people want to have Russia as our enemy again, but it isn't. as compared to China, is our adversary, possibly enemy, and Pakistan's government is what? Trying to have as close a relationship to China as they can. And that leaves us then with what other analysis can they, we're talking about nuclear materials here today. We've got a country with all of that background, and we have to ask ourselves, do they deserve our trust for a civilian nuclear program? And I'm going to let each one of you answer that question, but I want to leave one last item on the table, and that is the Pakistani government has to be judged on what they have done and why they have done done their things. Those things that I just outlined are damaging to the security of the United States and the peace of the world. But what they are doing, it seems to me, to their own people, the Baluch, the Sindhis, Christians, is unforgivable and unconscionable, and we have let it ride. We've just let it slide. We continue giving them weapon systems that are used to destroy Baluch villages. We give them weapons that, instead of being used against the Taliban, are being used against people in their own country who oppose their government. And I think that's something that all of these things are important considerations. So let me ask the panel. Number one, none of you decided that to say that Pakistan probably didn't know that Osama bin Laden was there. So let me just ask right down the line, does the Pakistani government today deserve our trust when it comes to this nuclear development? To start, if you could just give me about a 30-second answer on that and go right on down the line, that's fine.
Congressman, I have already laid out my views in my written testimony and in 2 books in which I make the point that the focus of Pakistan has been, and American interests and Pakistani interests do not converge. They have not converged for a while. During the Cold War, Pakistan was interested in getting American military and economic assistance to compete with India, and it made some concessions to America in return. The problem is that in Washington, there are always people who are willing to see the Pakistani glass as half full, and they don't see it from the view of the Pakistani people. Pakistan's children don't go to school, or 48% of them don't go to school. The Baluch are being repressed. The Mahajirs in Karachi are being repressed. Sindhis have their own set of complaints. The support of the Taliban has actually resulted in blowback that has disrupted our own society. And one institution, which is the Pakistani military, dominates all others. That is not a healthy situation. American policy should be directed at trying to force or make or convince Pakistan into becoming a normal country where schools run, where electricity is available, where the aspirations of the people are answered, and not just some dream of the military of great conquests, which it hasn't been able to fulfill, except when it's oppressing and repressing its own people.
So the answer was no.
Absolutely. That was a rather long no, but yes, Congressman.
All right, thank you. And Doctor?
Thank you. I think the question about nuclear negotiations with Pakistan should be judged, the utility of those negotiations should be judged on whether they're realistic and whether they could serve U.S. interests. And I think right now the answer to the first question of realism is no, it's unrealistic on both sides. And at the moment, the answer to the second question is also no.
As I made clear in my testimony, I think it's a bad idea generally to go running around the world with nuclear carrots, particularly in the subcontinent. I would not limit it to Pakistan. I don't think the India deal was a winner either. And it seems to me you can actually make things much worse by playing with this. If you need to negotiate, I would do it on the merits, and I would, as you have laid out, expect performance as a function of what it is you're willing to offer. And I don't think the nuclear area offers very much practically, and it can be really militarily dicey, that is to say, self-defeating. I would stay clear of it.
I don't think these things are done on the basis of trust. If they were, the answer would be a simple no, but they're, as your former colleague or governor first in California, I'm a Californian, President Reagan, you know, trust but verify. I would always say distrust and verify. And so that would be the proposition here. And I don't think we're going to have an agreement, so I don't think it's going to be an issue, really.
Well, there are two factors. Number one, we do have the technological capabilities of building nuclear reactors today that will not have the waste left over, like the Iranian reactor will, of producing nuclear weapons. And there's a whole new generation possible of nuclear power plants. So no matter what we would ever do, we should, in fact, it's not just Pakistan, but anyone that we are involved with expanding the realm of nuclear power should be based on the new technology that we, rather than the old technology, because we don't need no leftover material that can be used for nuclear bombs. We don't need that anywhere. So that's number one thought.